The deep void of the Perseus arm was typically a realm of quiet discovery. A vast canvas for the gentle hum of the survey vessel Curiosity's reach as it meticulously charted nebulae and catalogued emergent stellar nurseries. Dr. Eris Thorne, xenolinguist and lead cultural analyst, often found solace in the quietude of the Deep Space Observatory deck, the simulated starlight from the advanced panoramic display washing over the cool plasteel. This morning, however, the serene tableau was abruptly shattered by a blare of alarms, a discordant symphony that vibrated through the deck plates and sent a jolt through his carefully brewed morning synth coffee. External contact, multiple signatures, unidentified formation. The voice of Chief Engineer Tanny Singh, usually calm and measured, carried an edge of surprise over the comms. Dr. Thorne, get to the bridge, now. Eris, a man whose natural habitat was often a virtual library or an ethnographic simulation, moved with surprising speed. His long legs carried him swiftly through the polished corridors, past the quiet labs and automated fabrication bays. On the bridge, the usual hum of background operations had escalated to a sharp, urgent thrum. Crew members, usually relaxed in their ergonomically designed consoles, were now perched on the edge of their seats, eyes glued to the main view screen. "What is our situation, Chief?" Eris asked, his voice a low, steady counterpoint to the rising tension. Tanny, her dark hair pulled back in a practical braid, gestured to the main display with a flick of her wrist. The void outside, moments ago empty save for distant starfields, was now dominated by a cluster of colossal vessels. They were unlike anything catalogued in humanity's extensive stellar databases. Gold-plated hulls gleamed like polished artifacts, adorned with intricate, almost baroque filigree that snaked across their monumental surfaces. Sweeping spires pierced the blackness, tipped with glowing, crystalline formations. These were not ships built for subtlety or efficiency. They were mobile monuments, floating declarations of power. "They just warped in, Doctor," Tanny reported, her fingers dancing across a haptic interface. "No prior FTL signature, no conventional jump point established. Their drive tech is different, and look at them, they are huge, absolutely gargantuan. Our Curiosity's reach could fit inside one of those main hangar bays with room to spare." Eris leaned closer to the screen, his brow furrowed not with fear, but with a peculiar academic fascination. "Indeed, an impressive aesthetic. Reminds one of pre-atmospheric flight dirigibles or perhaps early deep ocean submersibles. Form over function, one might observe." "The scale is definitely meant to impress," Tanny conceded, a slight smirk playing on her lips. "Scanning their energy signatures now. Active weapon ports but dormant. Shield harmonics are odd, very high energy requirement for the field integrity they are showing." Before Tanny could elaborate, the main view screen flickered, the immense alien fleet momentarily dissolving into a burst of static before resolving into a new image. It was an alien, naturally. A being of regal bearing, framed by what appeared to be a lavish throne room. Its skin was a deep, iridescent azure, almost gem-like, and it possessed 6 slender limbs, each ending in delicate, multi-jointed digits. Intricate robes of crimson and gold cascaded from its shoulders, adorned with luminous symbols. A towering, crystalline crown, pulsing with internal light, rested upon its elongated head. Behind it, a phalanx of similarly ornate but less ostentatious beings stood in deferential silence, their heads bowed low. The alien on the screen projected a voice that reverberated through the Curiosity's reach bridge. A deep, resonant rumble that seemed to fill every corner of the vessel, despite emanating from a mere two-dimensional display. "Behold, lesser beings of the uncharted void. I am High Arbiter Kalis of the Gloran Ascendancy, first emissary of the Lumina Imperium, by decree of the illustrious Conclave, and with the boundless wisdom of the Imperator Prime, your sector has been chosen for integration into our glorious dominion. Eris blinked, then turned to Tanny, a flicker of something unreadable, perhaps amusement, in his eyes. Tanny, for her part, had to press her lips together to suppress a smile. Their chief communications officer, Ensign Leah Khan, was already struggling to maintain a professional demeanor at her console. "The Lumina Imperium," High Arbiter Kalis continued, his voice echoing with self-important grandiosity, "spans thousands of worlds, bringing enlightened order and unparalleled advancement to all who submit. Your primitive vessel, your nascent civilization, cannot hope to comprehend the majesty of our reach, the might of our fleets, or the profundity of our technology." A pause for dramatic effect. Kalis extended one of its 6 arms, its delicate digits splayed. "Surrender your vessel immediately. Relinquish all control to Imperial authority. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force, leading to the swift and absolute neutralization of your existence. Do you comprehend, primitives?" Eris leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful, almost curious expression on his face. He nodded slowly. "Fascinating. The declaratory rhetoric is quite strong. A classic display of pre-contact posturing, Chief. Standard Imperial doctrine, it seems. One must appreciate the theatrical flair." Tanny cleared her throat, her voice a low murmur to Eris. "Doctor, my scanners are picking up on their primary weapon systems now. They appear to be particle accelerators. Large ones, certainly, but nothing we haven't phased out in general construction and mining applications a century ago. And their shields. They are running on direct matter-to-energy conversion, wildly inefficient. Our ships use quantum-entangled void resonance fields. They could not even dent our base-level hull plating without significant effort." Eris activated the Curiosity's reached universal translator and communications array. His voice, calm and polite, filled the bridge. "Greetings, High Arbiter Kalis. This is Dr. Eris Thorne, representing the Human Confederacy survey vessel Curiosity's Reach. We are delighted to make first contact. However, I believe there may be a slight misunderstanding regarding your integration proposal. Could you perhaps clarify your terms, and perhaps, for the sake of clarity, provide a formal, notarized copy of this decree of integration? Our bureaucratic protocols are rather stringent." On the main view screen, High Arbiter Kalis froze, its multi-limbed form rigid with confusion. The elaborate, dramatic posture it had held for its grand proclamation seemed to deflate slightly. "Notarized copy? Primitive, did you not hear my declaration? You are to submit. There are no terms to negotiate with a nascent species. The Gloran Ascendancy does not negotiate with unknowns." "Oh, but we are certainly known, High Arbiter," Eris replied, a subtle, almost imperceptible twitch at the corner of his lips. "The Human Confederacy maintains extensive interstellar records. Perhaps our designation has not yet reached the outer echelons of the Lumina Imperium's archives. It happens. The galaxy is quite vast, after all. Still, even for initial contact, protocol dictates a formal exchange of intentions. Is there an interspecies diplomatic charter you operate under? Or perhaps a standard treaty template we could review?" Kalis blinked all 6 of its eyes, its regal composure visibly cracking. "Diplomatic, charter, treaty template. We are the Lumina Imperium, our word is law. There is no charter for species yet to be absorbed." "Ah, I see," Eris mused, stroking his chin thoughtfully. "So, less of a charter and more of a unilateral declaration. Understood. Still, High Arbiter, for our internal records, could you perhaps detail the precise technological basis for this overwhelming force you mentioned? We are a scientific vessel, you understand, and our data logs are rather comprehensive. Specific energy outputs, weapon yields, shield harmonics, perhaps a brief schematic. For contextualization." A low murmur rippled through the Gloran throne room on the view screen. The other, less ostentatious Glorans behind Kalis began to exchange bewildered glances. Kalis itself seemed to swell with indignation, its iridescent skin darkening slightly. "You dare question the might of the Imperium," Kalis thundered, its voice regaining some of its earlier booming quality. Our fusion-laced particle cannons can shear through entire planetary defenses. Our singularity drives can traverse nebulae in mere cycles. Our orbital bombardments can render worlds inert. Tanny leaned into Eris, her voice a stage whisper. Doctor, their particle cannons are, at best, equivalent to our deep-core excavation lasers, and those are for breaking up rock. And their singularity drives are glorified jump gates. Our vessels traverse nebulae at 5 times that speed using localized space-time compression. And orbital bombardments rendering worlds inert. With those energy outputs, they would be lucky to scorch a continent's surface in a week. Eris maintained a perfectly neutral, almost appreciative expression for Kalis. Remarkable, truly awe-inspiring. Such raw power is indeed commendable. However, High Arbiter, our current mission involves surveying a particularly volatile stellar anomaly. Our shielding, while robust, might require some advanced calibration to withstand such planetary defense shearing capabilities. Would you mind demonstrating a fractional output of your primary weapon on, say, an uninhabited asteroid in the outer system? For our recalibration purposes, naturally. Kalis seemed to short-circuit. It flapped its 6 arms in a gesture of utter exasperation. Demonstrate. For your calibration, you demand a demonstration from the Lumina Imperium, from the Gloran Ascendancy. Your insolence is unprecedented for a nascent species. Not a demand, High Arbiter, Eris corrected gently, merely a request for clarification. We prefer empirical data over anecdotal claims, you see. It streamlines our integration processes, saves a great deal of paperwork in the long run. The Gloran High Arbiter's azure skin began to flush with an unusual hue, somewhere between deep purple and agitated crimson. Its 6 limbs twitched uncontrollably. The silent, deferential Glorans behind it were now openly staring at their leader, their expressions ranging from shock to thinly veiled horror. It was clear they had never encountered a species that was not instantly terrified or slavishly eager to appease. "This is not how submissions are conducted," Kalis finally roared, its voice vibrating with frustration. "You will cease your impertinence and accept your fate, or we shall be forced to accelerate your compliance." Eris nodded slowly, as if taking notes. Accelerated compliance. An interesting term. Does that involve a new bureaucratic form, perhaps, or merely a revised schedule? Because our vessel has a rather full survey itinerary for the next few cycles. Rescheduling would require significant lead time. Kalis let out a sound that was a cross between a growl and a defeated sigh. "You will regret your lack of comprehension, primitive. The Lumina Imperium grants you 1 Terran standard cycle to consider your folly, 1 cycle to comprehend the true scale of our might. If, by then, you have not broadcast your unconditional surrender, your vessel shall be dissolved, and your system brought to heel." With a final, furious gesture, the image of High Arbiter Kalis vanished, replaced by the silent, colossal, gold-plated fleet hanging menacingly in the void. A beat of silence hung heavy on the Curiosity's Reach bridge. Then, Chief Engineer Tanny Singh let out a soft snort of laughter that quickly escalated into a full, hearty chuckle. Ensign Leah Khan, her face flushed with suppressed mirth, finally allowed herself a wide grin. Even the usually stoic navigation officer, Commander Jayan Lai, had a ghost of a smile on his face. Eris Thorne, however, remained outwardly composed, though his eyes twinkled with a profound, almost intellectual amusement. "Well, Chief, that was illuminating. An interesting blend of pomp and circumstance, coupled with what appears to be fundamentally inefficient, albeit larger-scale, technology. Their understanding of basic diplomacy seems somewhat underdeveloped. Wouldn't you agree?" "Underdeveloped is one way to put it, Doctor," Tanny said, wiping a tear of amusement from her eye. "It's like encountering a proud ancient kingdom armed with really big, shiny slingshots, demanding tribute from a civilization that invented fusion reactors and warp drives last Tuesday. They don't even realize Thayer out of their depth. Indeed, Eris agreed, turning his gaze back to the alien fleet. The Lumina Imperium's ships, for all their intimidating size and golden splendor, now seemed less like a threat and more like a collection of overly decorated curiosities. The question, Chief, is what we do with such a discovery. They believe they are the apex. Their worldview is entirely constructed around that premise. How does one enlighten such earnest conquerors without shattering their perception of reality entirely? We could just ghost them, Leah suggested, a mischievous glint in her eye. Power up the discrete drive and be halfway across the sector before they even finish their cycle of consideration. Eris shook his head slowly. No, that would be rude, and besides, there is much to learn from such a unique cultural encounter. Their misinterpretations are truly fascinating. This accelerated compliance concept, for instance, requires further analysis. And that declaration of planetary defense shearing capabilities. I have a hypothesis I would like to test. Tanny raised an eyebrow. Oh, and what hypothesis is that, Doctor? Eris tapped a finger against his chin, a thoughtful gleam in his eyes. My hypothesis, Chief, is that they have never actually encountered a truly defended world, and their understanding of primitive is simply anything less ostentatious than their own civilization. I suspect their current conquests are less about might and more about dramatic entrances and convincing less developed species to simply give up. It's a grand play, you see. He turned to his crew, a slight, knowing smile playing on his lips. Ensign Khan, please prepare a formal response for High Arbiter Kalis. A polite refusal couched in terms of pre-existing engagements and unavoidable scheduling conflicts. And Chief Singh, prepare the external comms for a broadcast. A simple, short, public domain message, something that will be difficult for them to misinterpret. Tanny grinned, already anticipating. Got it, Doctor. Something from the classical archives, perhaps? A piece that encapsulates our spirit of amusement? Precisely, Chief. Something utterly baffling to their self-important grandeur. Something that says, you have no idea who you just tried to conquer. Eris paused, his gaze fixed on the imposing, yet somehow comical, alien fleet. This is going to be far more interesting than charting nebulae. The digital clock on the bridge silently counted down the remaining hours of the Gloran Ascendancy's cycle of consideration. On the Curiosity's reach, the human crew went about their duties with quiet efficiency, a palpable sense of anticipation mixing with their underlying amusement. They knew what was coming, and they were ready to respond to the galaxy's most dramatic conquerors with nothing but polite, understated, and utterly bewildering human, heck yeah, ingenuity. What do you think happens when the Lumina Imperium finally tries to accelerate human compliance? Will their grand display of power live up to the hype? Let us know your predictions in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more humanity, heck yeah, stories. The digital clock on the bridge silently counted down the remaining hours of the Gloran Ascendancy's cycle of consideration. On the Curiosity's reach, the human crew went about their duties with quiet efficiency, a palpable sense of anticipation mixing with their underlying amusement. They knew what was coming, and they were ready to respond to the galaxy's most dramatic conquerors with nothing but polite, understated, and utterly bewildering human, heck yeah, ingenuity. High Arbiter Kalis, meanwhile, fumed in the command throne of the glory of Lumina. The human vessel, Curiosity's reach, had dared to defy the Imperium, to question its majesty, to request notarized decrees and empirical data. Unthinkable. Such impertinence was an affront to the illustrious conclave itself. For a full Terran cycle, Kalis had allowed them to contemplate their folly. Now that cycle was nearing its end. Prepare the fleet, Kalis boomed, its azure skin pulsing with righteous indignation. Target the primitive vessel's engine core, a fractional discharge only, sufficient to disable, not obliterate. We shall capture this insolent craft and bring its inhabitants to heel. Let them witness the true power of the Lumina Imperium. Across the Golden Fleet, monumental particle cannons swiveled into position, their massive muzzles beginning to glow with an ominous, building energy. Shield generators flared, throwing iridescent fields around the colossal ships. The void itself seemed to hum with the growing power. On the Curiosity's reach, Ensign Leah Khan whistled softly, her eyes on the external scanners. Commander Singh, Dr. Thorne, looks like our friends are done contemplating. Energy signatures are peaking across their entire forward array. Looks like a full-spread disablement shot, targeting our drive core. Chief Engineer Tanny Singh merely nodded, a wry smile on her face. As predicted, their disablement shot probably wouldn't even dent our external plating. Aris, are we ready for the show? Dr. Aris Thorne, leaning back in his chair, fingers steepled beneath his chin, simply nodded. Indeed, Chief. Set the main external display to public broadcast. Let them see our reaction. He paused, then added, and prepare for an automated counter-calibration. Nothing aggressive, merely a subtle response. Let's not alarm them unduly. The seconds ticked away. The Gloran fleet pulsed with energy. Then, with a coordinated flash that briefly illuminated the dark void, dozens of massive particle beams lanced forth, converging on the comparatively tiny Curiosity's reach. The beams were thick, vibrant, and filled with enough raw energy to carve canyons on a planetary surface, certainly enough to vaporize a lesser vessel. On the bridge of the glory of Lumina, High Arbiter Kalis watched, a satisfied smirk forming on its multi-jointed face. This was it. The swift, overwhelming display of might that would finally humble the impudent humans. But the Curiosity's reach did not explode. It did not buckle. It did not even visibly shudder. The colossal particle beams struck its forward shield and dissipated, like water hitting rock. There was a faint shimmer, barely perceptible, a ripple of light across the Curiosity's reach's hull, and then nothing. The beams simply washed over it, their energy absorbed, redirected, and utterly neutralized. Silence descended upon the bridge of the glory of Lumina. High Arbiter Kalis's smirk dissolved into a gaping maw of disbelief. Its 6 eyes widened. What was that? Kalis stammered, its booming voice reduced to a thin squeak. Why did the vessel not shatter? Why did it not surrender? What sorcery is this? High Arbiter, cried Technical Officer Cathar, his voice trembling. Their shield harmonics are there fluctuating, not collapsing but changing. They're adapting to our weapon's frequency in real time. Our beams are being inverted, redirected into subspace. Kalis staggered from its throne. Impossible. No primitive species possesses such technology. Fire again, increase power output, obliterate them. But the human vessel was already responding. A low, almost imperceptible hum resonated from the Curiosity's reach. On the Gloran bridge, the main view screen, still focused on the human ship, flickered. A single, thin beam of pure, incandescent light lanced out from the Curiosity's reach. Not towards any of the Gloran ships, but directly into the asteroid field on the far side of the system. The Glorans watched in stunned silence as the beam, no thicker than a single finger, struck a colossal, unstable asteroid easily kilometers across. There was no explosion, no fiery blast. The asteroid simply dissolved. Not into dust, but into a cloud of shimmering, perfectly uniform microparticles that drifted harmlessly away, indistinguishable from the background stardust. It was a clean, surgical dissolution, leaving no trace. Silence reigned again, even heavier than before. On the Curiosity's reach, Aris Thorne observed the Gloran fleet's disarray with a professional interest. "That, Chief," he murmured, "was our standard Type C astrophysical survey beam, used for clearing orbital debris during deep space exploration. The counter-calibration feature is quite robust." Tanny Singh chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. Robust indeed, Doctor. Their primary particle cannon couldn't even replicate that effect if they fired it for a week straight. The view screen on the Curiosity's Reach bridge then displayed the public broadcast initiated by Eris. It was a simple data loop, a repeating sequence of elegant, mathematically precise fractals, accompanied by the ethereal, haunting strains of a 22nd century human composition, a piece known as Nebula's Embrace, crafted by an AI composer for solo quantum synthesizer. The message was clear to humans at least: we see you, we understand, and we are utterly, bafflingly beyond your comprehension. High Arbiter Kalis on the glory of Lumina watched the baffling display, its 6 eyes twitching. What is this noise? This strange, meaningless visual? Are they mocking us? Technical Officer Cathar, his face pale, shook his head. High Arbiter, our analysis shows their energy output during that dissolution was negligible. A fraction of what we project would be needed for such an effect. Their understanding of matter-energy conversion is profoundly alien. And the musical notes, exclaimed Cultural Liaison Officer Xylos, a Gloran known for its artistic sensibilities. They are perfectly organized, yet entirely without conventional structure. It defies all known musical theory. Kalis slammed its fist on the armrest of its command throne. This is a trick, a deception. They are still primitive, merely employing some crude cloaking technology or an illusion field. Send in the boarding parties. We will take the vessel by force. Let them see the might of our warriors up close. Even as Kalis gave the order, a new, unforeseen challenge arose. From the far reaches of the system, a deep space sensor array, previously silent and unseen, flickered to life. It was a Gloran deep range sensor node, a relic from an earlier Imperial expansion, now inexplicably active. Its automated broadcast, distorted by immense distance and age, crackled through the glory of Lumina's comms. Warning: unauthorized incursion. Sector R7 Delta 9 compromised. Threat level catastrophic. Incursion source the Void Weeper. The message repeated, then faded into static. The Void Weeper. The name sent a chill through the Gloran crew. A legend whispered in hushed tones through the Imperium, a rogue entity of immense, destructive power that drifted between star systems, consuming all in its path. It was a terror, long thought dormant, or perhaps a mere myth to keep lesser species in line. The Void Weeper, Kalis stammered, its bravado completely evaporated. Impossible! That is merely a cautionary tale. It cannot be real. But the long-range scanners, struggling to penetrate the distortion, began to show something. A faint, yet undeniable energy signature, growing rapidly, accelerating from beyond the system's edge. It was unlike any Gloran signature. It was cold, consuming, and utterly devoid of the usual FTL harmonics. On the Curiosity's reach, Eris Thorne's expression finally shifted from amusement to a flicker of genuine concern. "Chief, what are those readings? That's not Gloran, is it?" Tanny Singh's fingers flew across her console. "No, Doctor, absolutely not. I've seen historical data on this kind of signature. It's a vacuum harvester type entity. A non-sentient, self-replicating, energy-consuming space fauna. They're usually migratory, but this one, it's massive. And it's headed straight for the Gloran fleet. And us." Eris frowned. "A predatory bioconstruct. Here, that's an unexpected variable, and it appears quite substantial." Back on the glory of Lumina, chaos erupted. The Glorans, for all their grandiosity, were utterly unprepared for a truly existential threat. Their particle cannons, designed for disabling primitive vessels, would be useless against an amorphous, energy-devouring entity. Their vast, ornate ships, built for show, not agile combat, were lumbering targets. "Activate emergency FTL," Kalis shrieked, its 6 arms flailing. "Abandon this system, retreat immediately." But the Void Weeper was upon them. It shimmered into existence at the system's edge, not a ship, but a swirling obsidian cloud kilometers across, laced with crackling arcs of raw, destabilized energy. It moved with unnerving speed, a silent, hungry leviathan. Its first target was one of the smaller Gloran frigates, caught still trying to orient its FTL drive. The Void Weeper simply enveloped it. There was no explosion, no flash of light. The frigate, gold and gleaming moments before, simply dissolved, its matter, its energy, its very essence, consumed by the swirling darkness. It's feeding!" cried a Gloran officer, watching in horror as the signature of the frigate vanished from their tactical display. Panic surged through the Gloran fleet. Ships broke formation, desperate to initiate jumps, but their antiquated FTL drives spooled up too slowly. The Void Weeper, sensing the chaotic energy, accelerated its pursuit, a hunter among terrified prey. On the Curiosity's reach, Tanny Singh watched the unfolding disaster with grim fascination. "They're sitting ducks, Doctor. Their FTL drives are too slow to charge, and their shields are useless against that kind of energy drain. If we don't do something, their entire fleet will be devoured." Aris Thorne's amusement had vanished, replaced by a deep-seated human instinct to protect, even those who had just tried to conquer them. He looked at the chaos, the desperate, flailing movements of the Gloran ships. He thought of High Arbiter Kalis, for all its pretense, now just a terrified being facing annihilation. "Chief," Aris said, his voice firm, "activate full power to all long-range communications. Broadcast on all known Gloran frequencies. Prepare an open channel. Ensign Khan, translate and retranslate this message with maximum clarity. This is the human Confederacy vessel, Curiosity's Reach. Your Void Weeper is a biological energy consumer. Your current weapon systems are ineffective. We can assist in its neutralization. We repeat, we can assist. Transmit your fleet-wide distress beacon on a wideband encrypted channel. We will establish a secure link and coordinate a defense." Tanny stared at him, then a wide grin spread across her face. "You want to help them, Doctor, after they just tried to accelerate our compliance?" Aris gave a weary but resolute smile. "Chief, they may be arrogant, misguided, and profoundly over-thetop, but they're also just lost. And more importantly, they are our first contact. It would be rather unhumanity, heck yeah, to let them perish when we have the means to prevent it. Besides," he added, his eyes twinkling once more, "it'll be an excellent opportunity to collect more empirical data. And perhaps a chance to truly show them what a non-primitive species actually looks like." He turned to the main view screen, where the Void Weeper was closing in on another Gloran vessel, its swirling darkness consuming the light around it. High Arbiter Kalis, his azure skin now pale with terror, watched from the glory of Lumina's bridge, his once regal posture slumped in despair. His empire's might, his grand declaration, meant nothing against this cosmic predator. "Ensign Khan, status on that broadcast?" Aris asked. "Message sent, Doctor," Leah replied, her fingers flying. "Looping on all frequencies. They're scrambling, sir. Utter chaos. But wait, I'm detecting a response. A weak, desperate distress beacon from the glory of Lumina itself. They're accepting the link." Aris nodded, a determined glint in his eye. "Good. Chief, power up our primary long-range deep space projection array, not for weapons, for illumination." He paused, then added, "Let's show these earnest conquerors what real, advanced technology can do when it's not being used for dramatic posturing, but for actually saving lives. This is going to be quite the first contact story." As the Curiosity's Reach began to hum with a new, focused energy, and the human crew prepared to engage a threat the Glorans had only known as a terrifying legend, High Arbiter Kalis watched the distant, unassuming human vessel on his tactical screen. It was small, it was unadorned, and it was offering salvation. A species they had just declared primitive was now their only hope against utter annihilation. The humiliation was profound, the irony utterly lost on him in his terror. and the Void Weeper, an apex predator of the cosmos, was just moments away from its next meal. What unexpected trick will the humans pull to outwit a cosmic predator and save the very aliens who tried to conquer them? Will the Lumina Imperium ever truly grasp the casual power of humanity? Heck yeah! Tune in for the next part to find out. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to ensure you don't miss a single moment of this astonishing interstellar encounter. Did you know the Void Weeper is actually based on a rarely observed galactic phenomenon of dark energy vortices? Probably not. So hit subscribe for more fascinating facts and thrilling sci-fi. The Void Weeper, a swirling maelstrom of obsidian and crackling energy, lunged. Its amorphous form, kilometers across, enveloped the stern of the indomitable Will, a Gloran-heavy cruiser caught in the frantic chaos of an aborted jump. There was no sound in the vacuum, but on the glory of Lumina's main view screen, the Indomitable Will began to flicker, its golden hull dimming, its intricate spires losing their luster. High Arbiter Kahless watched, six eyes wide with horror as the cruiser's light faded, consumed, leaving only a lingering distortion in the fabric of space. "It's lost! Another vessel gone!" Technical Officer Cathar shrieked, his voice choked with despair. The Curiosity's reach hummed. Dr. Aris Thorne's voice, calm and clear, resonated across the Gloran fleet's emergency frequencies. "High Arbiter Kahless, we require your immediate fleet-wide distress beacon. We have a solution. Act now, or your entire armada will be consumed." Kahless, though steeped in millennia of self-importance, was not entirely devoid of survival instinct. The alternative was absolute annihilation. "Transmit! Transmit the beacon! All frequencies, all ships, obey the human!" A weak, stuttering pulse of energy flared from the glory of Lumina, a desperate plea for aid. "Beacon confirmed, Doctor," Chief Engineer Tanny Singh reported, her fingers dancing across a new set of controls. "Establishing secure quantum link, ready for your instructions." Aris nodded, his gaze fixed on the Void Weeper, which was now turning its hungry attention towards the sprawling yet vulnerable flagship. "Engage primary power conduits to the multispectrum quantum disruptor. Prepare a focused, wideband discharge. Ensign Khan, relay precise targeting data to all available emitters. We are going to give this Weeper a very unpleasant indigestion." On the Curiosity's Reach's main view screen, the Void Weeper seemed to hesitate, its swirling form contracting slightly as if sensing the shift in the void. It was a predator, attuned to the subtle energies of space, and something new was approaching, something outside its primordial comprehension. Suddenly, from every projection array and sensor pod on the Curiosity's Reach, a cascade of pure, incandescent light erupted. But this was no conventional beam of destruction. It was a complex, shimmering wave, a torrent of raw, untamed quantum data, vibrating at frequencies that defied natural law. It was structured chaos, ordered pandemonium, a torrent of information so dense and multifaceted it would have vaporized any conventional processing unit. The light washed over the Void Weeper. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the obsidian cloud began to shimmer violently. Cracks of pure white energy, like lightning within a storm, fractured its dark mass. The smooth, consuming flow of its outer layers became erratic, jerky, as if a million microscopic gears had suddenly locked up inside its vast, amorphous body. On the glory of Lumina, the Gloran crew watched in bewildered terror. Their advanced sensors, designed to track energy signatures, were overloading, struggling to comprehend the impossible data stream emanating from the human vessel. It's reacting," Technical Officer Cathar exclaimed, his voice a strained whisper. "Its internal energy fluctuations are spiking. It's attempting to process the human's emission, but it's breaking down." The Void Weeper, previously a silent, inexorable force, now thrashed in the void. Its kilometers-wide form writhed, contracting and expanding with agonizing slowness. From its surface, faint, high-pitched shrieks, more felt than heard, scraped at the Gloran comms, a sound of unimaginable agony. It was not a physical sound, but a psychic imprint of utter disarray. The quantum disruptor is overloading its internal energy absorption matrix. High arbiter, Aris explained calmly over the open channel, his voice a stark contrast to the creature's silent torment. It's designed to process and convert specific types of stellar radiation for sustenance. We are feeding it an entirely new, incredibly complex data stream, something its rudimentary biological processors cannot parse. It's essentially choking on information. The Void Weeper, unable to consume or process the barrage of quantum noise, began to swell, its surface rippling with violent spasms. Dark energy pulsed from within, then dissipated as if trapped in a cage of pure, ordered chaos. "Now, Chief," Aris ordered, his voice taking on a sharper edge. "Focus the primary emission array. Prepare for targeted quantum entangling and spatial displacement. We're going to give our friend here a one-way trip to somewhere else." Tanny grinned, a flash of pure human determination in her eyes. "Understood, Doctor. Initiating spatial folding parameters. Coordinates locked. Displacement drive spooling." With a final, desperate heave, the Void Weeper seemed to gather itself for one last, titanic effort. But it was too late. From the Curiosity's reach, an invisible, impossibly precise field rippled outward. It enveloped the thrashing, agonizing bioconstruct. For a single, stretched second, the Void Weeper shimmered violently, its mass distorting, becoming an unholy mess of color and shadow. Then, with a silent, impossibly swift blink in the void, it was gone. Completely. The space where it had been was empty, pristine, as if the monstrous entity had never existed. Silence descended upon the Gloran fleet. The panic, which moments before had threatened to shatter their command structure, simply evaporated, replaced by an even more profound, stupefying awe. They stared at the empty space, then at the comparatively tiny, unassuming human vessel. On the bridge of the glory of Lumina, High Arbiter Kalis collapsed back onto its command throne, its azure skin now a pale, sickly gray. Its 6 limbs trembled. "It's gone," it whispered, its voice hoarse with disbelief. "The Void Weeper eliminated, just vanished." Technical Officer Cathar, his face streaked with tears of relief and utter bewilderment, could only nod. "High Arbiter, their energy consumption was minimal. Their method, it defies all known Imperial science. It was not a weapon. It was a surgical strike. They did not destroy it. They merely removed it." Aris Thorne's voice, still calm, broke the stunned silence. "High Arbiter Kalis, the threat has been neutralized. Your fleet is secure. We recommend a full system scan to ensure no lingering Void Weeper fragments or ancillary entities remain. We can assist with that, should you require it." Kalis looked at the human vessel, then at its own grand, gold-plated bridge. Its entire worldview, its millennia-old dogma of Lumina Imperial supremacy, had not just been challenged, it had been utterly vaporized, leaving a gaping void where certainty had once been. This primitive species had not only shrugged off their most powerful weapons as if they were dust, but had then, with casual elegance, removed a legendary cosmic terror that had haunted Gloran nightmares for cycles. The realization was a crushing weight. They had come as conquerors, bringing enlightened order and unparalleled advancement. They had threatened annihilation. And these humans, with their quiet voices and unassuming vessel, had simply helped them, not out of fear, not for tribute, but out of a casual, almost indifferent, benevolence that spoke of a power so vast, it rendered aggression moot. Kalis slowly, painfully, rose from its throne. Its 6 arms, which had so recently flailed in indignation, now moved with a profound sense of humility. "Human, Dr. Aris Thorne," it began, its booming voice reduced to a humble rasp. We stand corrected. Our assumptions were gravely mistaken. Our technology, Our understanding, it is infantile compared to yours." It took a hesitant step forward, then another, until it stood directly before the main view screen, its gaze fixed on the small, distant Curiosity's reach. "We, the Gloran Ascendancy, the Lumina Imperium, we were wrong. We came here to conquer, but you saved us. From a terror we believed mythological." Kalis lowered its elongated head, the crystalline crown dimming slightly. It was a gesture of profound, uncharacteristic submission for a high arbiter. We beg your forgiveness, and we beg your guidance. We have traversed thousands of worlds, believing ourselves to be the bringers of light. But now, we realize we have been stumbling in the dark." On the Curiosity's Reach bridge, a quiet sigh of relief rippled through the human crew. Their amusement had softened into something akin to weary empathy. Eris Thorn activated the comms. His voice was gentle, devoid of triumph or condescension. "High Arbiter, there is nothing to forgive. First contact is always complicated. As for guidance, we are merely a survey vessel. Our mission is understanding, not governance. However," he paused, a thoughtful expression on his face, "the human confederacy believes in mutual uplift. We believe knowledge should be shared. And we have much to learn from your vast experience traversing the galaxy, your diplomatic encounters with thousands of species. Perhaps a partnership rather than a conquest?" Kalis lifted its head, its 6 eyes wide with a glimmer of hope, a fragile spark in the ashes of its shattered pride. "A partnership? You would share your knowledge after our insolence?" "High Arbiter," Eris replied, a subtle, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. "The universe is vast, and there are wonders beyond imagining for us all to explore together. But first, perhaps a proper diplomatic exchange, a tour of your vessel, and then, if you are agreeable, a visit to our home system, to our people, and to our true capabilities. You've seen what a single survey vessel can do. Imagine what an entire civilization can achieve when it puts its mind to something interesting." The glory of Lumina, once a symbol of overwhelming power, now seemed a mere gilded bauble in the void. Its particle cannons, its massive engines, its ornate decorations, they were hollow. The true power, the true majesty, was embodied in the small, unassuming human vessel, which had just casually brushed aside a galactic horror. High Arbiter Kalis, the self-proclaimed conqueror, now stared at the Curiosity's Reach not with pride, but with a newfound, terrifying, yet exhilarating, understanding of what it truly meant to be advanced. The galaxy was far larger, far stranger, and far more awe-inspiring than the Lumina Imperium had ever dared to dream. And they had just stumbled upon its most profoundly baffling and terrifyingly powerful secret. What will the Gloran Ascendancy do when they realize the sheer, casual might of an entire human civilization? Will they truly accept a partnership, or will their ancient pride resurface in a new, unexpected form? Find out what happens next in the final installment. Don't miss it. Hit that subscribe button, and remember, the universe is full of mysteries. And sometimes, the biggest ones are the ones that simply make you laugh. The Void Weeper, a swirling maelstrom of obsidian and crackling energy, had vanished. Not shattered into fragments, not blown apart in a glorious explosion, but simply erased. The space where it had thrashed moments before was now pristine, silent, as if the monstrous entity had been nothing more than a bad dream, casually dismissed. On the bridge of the glory of Lumina, High Arbiter Kalis, slumped on its command throne, stared at the empty void. Its azure skin, usually vibrant with authority, was a sickly gray. Its 6 limbs, which had flailed in indignation and terror, now lay limp. The unquestionable might of the Lumina Imperium, the boundless wisdom of the illustrious conclave, the very foundation of its existence, had just dissolved faster than the Void Weeper itself. "It's gone," Kalis whispered, its booming voice reduced to a hoarse rasp. "The Void Weeper eliminated, just vanished." Technical Officer Cathar, his face still pale with residual terror, could only nod mutely. High Arbiter, their energy consumption was minimal. Their method, it defies all known Imperial science. It was not a weapon. It was a surgical strike. They did not defeat it. They merely removed it. Aris Thorn's voice, calm and clear, resonated across the Gloran fleet's open frequencies. High Arbiter Kalis, the threat has been neutralized. Your fleet is secure. We recommend a full system scan to ensure no lingering Void Weeper fragments or ancillary entities remain. We can assist with that, should you require it. Kalis slowly, painfully, rose from its throne. Its 6 arms, which had so recently declared dominion over a primitive species, now moved with a profound sense of utter, shattering humility. "Human, Dr. Aris Thorn," it began, its voice trembling. We stand corrected. Our assumptions were gravely mistaken. Our technology, our understanding, it is infantile compared to yours. It took a hesitant step forward, then another, until it stood directly before the main view screen, its gaze fixed on the small, unassuming human vessel. "We, the Gloran Ascendancy, the Lumina Imperium, we were wrong. We came here to conquer, but you saved us. From a terror we believed mythological." Kalis lowered its elongated head, the crystalline crown dimming slightly. It was a gesture of profound, uncharacteristic submission for a High Arbiter, a being accustomed to nothing but unquestioning obedience. We beg your forgiveness, and we beg your guidance. We have traversed thousands of worlds, believing ourselves to be the bringers of light, but now we realize we have been stumbling in the dark. On the Curiosity's Reach bridge, a quiet sigh of relief rippled through the human crew. Their amusement, previously directed at Gloran hubris, had softened into something akin to weary empathy. Aris Thorn activated the comms. His voice was gentle, devoid of triumph or condescension. "High Arbiter, there is nothing to forgive. First contact is always complicated. As for guidance, we are merely a survey vessel. Our mission is understanding, not governance. However," he paused, a thoughtful expression on his face, "the human confederacy believes in mutual uplift. We believe knowledge should be shared. And we have much to learn from your vast experience traversing the galaxy, your diplomatic encounters with thousands of species. Perhaps a partnership rather than a conquest?" Kalis lifted its head, its 6 eyes wide with a glimmer of hope, a fragile spark in the ashes of its shattered pride. "A partnership? You would share your knowledge after our insolence?" "High Arbiter," Aris replied, a subtle, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. "The universe is vast, and there are wonders beyond imagining for us all to explore together. But first, perhaps a proper diplomatic exchange, a tour of your vessel, and then, if you are agreeable, a visit to our home system, to our people, and to our true capabilities. You've seen what a single survey vessel can do. Imagine what an entire civilization can achieve when it puts its mind to something interesting." The glory of Lumina, once a symbol of overwhelming power, now seemed a mere gilded bauble in the void. Its particle cannons, its massive engines, its ornate decorations, they were hollow. The true power, the true majesty, was embodied in the small, unassuming human vessel, which had just casually brushed aside a galactic horror. Kalis, the self-proclaimed conqueror, now stared at the Curiosity's Reach not with pride, but with a newfound, terrifying yet exhilarating understanding of what it truly meant to be advanced. The galaxy was far larger, far stranger, and far more awe-inspiring than the Lumina Imperium had ever dared to dream. And they had just stumbled upon its most profoundly baffling and terrifyingly powerful secret. Days blurred into weeks as the initial shock gave way to an unprecedented exchange. The Curiosity's Reach, no longer a target for conquest, became a floating academy. High Arbiter Kalis, now styling itself Coordinator Kalis in a nod to its new, more collaborative outlook, spent hours on the human vessel, observing, asking questions. and struggling to reconcile its former worldview with the astonishing reality of human ingenuity. On the Gloran side, the initial, reluctant invitation for a proper tour of the glory of Lumina transformed into a series of open-ended expeditions. Eris Thorne, Tani Singh, and Ensign Leah Khan, along with other members of the human crew, moved through the monumental Gloran flagship, their previous amusement now tempered by genuine fascination for how Glorans had managed to achieve so much with so little, comparatively. "Our entire power grid," Chief Engineer Vorlax explained, gesturing to the massive fusion reactors that consumed several decks, "requires constant monitoring by thousands of specialists. Even with our advanced autoregulators, a single anomaly can require dozens of beings to resolve." Tani Singh, who typically managed the Curiosity's Reach's zero-point energy manifold, a device the size of a data table that powered her entire vessel for decades, nodded politely. "Indeed, a complex logistical challenge. We've found that advanced neural net AIs, when properly integrated into power distribution, can handle millions of variables per nanosecond, often preempting issues before they even register on conventional sensors. They free up your specialists for more creative endeavors." Vorlax blinked, his 6 eyes struggling to process the idea of a machine capable of such autonomy. "Creative endeavors? Our specialists are dedicated to the Imperium's energy needs. This is their life's purpose." Eris Thorne interjected gently. "And a noble purpose it is, Chief Vorlax. But imagine if those brilliant minds could instead focus on developing new energy sources, or optimizing terraforming processes for barren worlds, or even creating new art forms. True advancement, in our view, comes not from endlessly perfecting existing systems, but from opening new avenues of exploration for every sentient being." The Gloran engineering team, eavesdropping on the conversation, shifted uncomfortably. The concept of machines being capable of such thinking, let alone creative endeavors, was alien to them. Their computers were hyper-efficient calculators, nothing more. In the Gloran medical bay, Dr. Tyler, who had previously boasted of regeneration chambers that healed injuries in days, watched in stunned silence as Dr. Evelyn Reed, the Curiosity's Reach's lead physician, casually demonstrated a human biofabricator. Evelyn, using a device no larger than her palm, scanned a Gloran officer suffering from a chronic, debilitating nerve tremor, a condition considered incurable by Imperial medicine. A soft hum, a faint shimmer of light, and the tremor simply ceased. The Gloran officer, once racked by involuntary spasms, stood perfectly still, his 6 eyes wide with disbelief. "How?" Tyler whispered, examining the officer's perfectly steady limbs. "This being has lived with this affliction for cycles. Our best regeneration chambers could only manage pain suppression." "Standard neural repatterning and tissue regeneration," Evelyn explained, tucking the device back into her pocket. "We simply realigned the misfiring synaptic pathways and regenerated the affected nerve clusters. Took less than a minute. Our medical AIs are quite adept at personalized therapy." She didn't mention that human children routinely had genetic predispositions analyzed and corrected in utero, and that most common ailments were cured by a casual thought, translated by a neural interface into a molecular adjustment. The cultural exchanges were perhaps the most profound. Commander Xylos, the former cultural liaison officer, who had once been puzzled by human concepts of interactive entertainment, now spent hours immersed in human virtual realities, experimenting with narrative creation, designing worlds, and even participating in simulated democratic processes. "It is bewildering," Xylos confessed to Ensign Leah Khan one cycle, emerging from a VR pod, its iridescent skin flushed with simulated effort. "To experience a narrative where the audience is also the author, to truly understand freedom of choice, it reshapes the very concept of existence. Our amphitheaters, They are merely static displays for children. Leah smiled. Stories are meant to be lived, Commander, not just observed. Coordinator Kalis, meanwhile, wrestled with the most challenging concept of all, the human political structure. The idea of a confederacy of freely associating worlds without a central imperator, without a ruling conclave, without a definitive galactic order seemed utterly chaotic. But who governs? Kalis asked Aris Thorn, its multi-jointed fingers drumming against the plasteel table in the Curiosity's Reach Mess Hall. Who dictates the laws? Who decides what is advanced and what is primitive? Aris took a bite of his synth protein bar, a concoction that tasted like spiced berries. Everyone governs, coordinator. Laws are consensual. And advanced is simply a state of continuous learning and growth, not a fixed point to be reached and then imposed upon others. We've found that when everyone is empowered to contribute, true innovation blossoms. Kalis was silent for a long moment, pondering this profoundly alien philosophy. So, your entire civilization operates without a central authority, without a single overarching will. We have federated governments, consensus councils, independent research collectives, and a bewildering array of philosophies, Aris clarified. But at our core, we trust in the collective intelligence of every individual. It's messy, sometimes loud, but always evolving. It's what makes us humanity. Heck yeah! The phrase, repeated in a context so different from its bombastic first impression, now held a new meaning for Kalis. It was not a declaration of dominance, but a statement of inherent, undeniable potential. The journey back to the Lumina Imperium's core worlds was slow, deliberate, and filled with trepidation for the Glorans. Kalis knew that the greatest challenge lay ahead, convincing the illustrious Conclave, and indeed the entire Imperium, that their millennia-old dogma of supremacy was a comforting illusion. Upon their arrival in the Lumina system, a system bustling with colossal, gold-plated star cities and orbital defense platforms, the glory of Lumina was met not with triumphant fanfare, but with a palpable sense of unease. Whispers had spread through the Imperial network's tales of the Void Weeper, of the tiny primitive vessel that had casually erased it, of the High Arbiter's unprecedented humility. The illustrious Conclave, an assembly of ancient, rigid Gloran leaders, awaited Kalis in the Grand Assembly Hall of Lumina Prime, a chamber carved from pure crystal, designed to inspire awe and submission. Kalis, accompanied by a small human delegation including Aris Thorn and Tanny Singh, entered. The air was thick with skepticism and thinly veiled hostility. "High Arbiter Kalis," intoned Elder Conclave Prime Vorkas, its voice echoing with generations of unquestioned authority. "You return not with a conquered system, but with these, and with stories of defeat and impossible magic. Our sensors report the Curiosity's reach carries only a handful of beings. And it is so small. How can such a vessel possess such power?" Aris Thorn stepped forward, a polite, almost academic smile on his face. "Conclave Prime Vorkas, our vessel's size is optimized for efficiency, not intimidation. As for power, perhaps a brief demonstration would be clarifying." Before Vorkas could refuse, Aris activated a small, almost invisible, device in his palm. Suddenly, the entire crystalline Grand Assembly Hall shimmered. The walls, previously solid and unyielding, became transparent, revealing not the bustling cityscape outside, but a panoramic, real-time holographic projection of the entire Gloran home system, from its blazing binary suns to its furthest asteroid belts. Every ship, every station, every moving vehicle on every planet was visible, rendered in breathtaking detail, right down to the individuals walking on the streets of Lumina Prime below. The Conclave gasped. Their own most powerful long-range sensors could barely resolve a single planet's surface from orbit, let alone an entire system in such microscopic detail. "This is your home system, Conclave," Eris explained calmly, his voice resonating through the silent hall. "Captured in real time, our quantum entanglement scanners process vast amounts of data almost instantaneously. We can observe any point in the galaxy with similar precision, should we choose. Our purpose is understanding, not surveillance, but we wish to illustrate the difference between what you perceive as advanced and what true, integrated, data-driven civilization can achieve." He then gestured. The holographic projection shifted, focusing on a single Gloran battleship, one of the Conclave's pride and joy, orbiting a distant gas giant. With another subtle gesture, Eris caused the holographic battleship to shimmer, then reform perfectly inside the Grand Assembly Hall, life-sized, silent, hovering impossibly above the Conclave members. "This vessel," Eris continued, walking around the Phantom warship, "was constructed by your finest shipyards over a period of many cycles. It is a marvel of your engineering. We, however," he paused, then tapped a finger against the holographic hull, "could replicate it from raw stellar dust in a matter of minutes using a single orbital fabricator. Not to conquer, but to understand, to learn." The Conclave members, beings who had ruled for generations, were utterly, spectacularly silenced. Their rigid faces, usually etched with haughty self-assurance, now displayed a mixture of disbelief, terror, and a burgeoning sense of profound inadequacy. The power on display was so casual, so understated, yet so absolute, it rendered their own magnificent fleets and monumental cities into mere elaborate toys. Conclave Prime Vorkas, its multi-jointed digits trembling, finally spoke, its voice a mere whisper in the vast hall. This is impossible. We are the Lumina Imperium, we are the bringers of light." "And you shall continue to be," Eris said, his voice gentle, the holographic battleship shimmering out of existence. "But perhaps with a deeper understanding of the true spectrum of light. For too long, you have defined light by the limited glow of your own lantern. The galaxy, Conclave, is a cosmos of dazzling brilliance, and humanity offers a window to that infinite vista. The transformation of the Lumina Imperium was not swift, nor was it without immense internal struggle. Generations of ingrained dogma, of believing themselves the pinnacle of galactic evolution, could not be erased in a single moment. But the undeniable, casual brilliance of humanity, coupled with their patient, non-domineering approach, slowly began to chip away at the foundations of Gloran pride. Coordinator Kalis became the spearhead of this new era. It tirelessly advocated for a new vision of the Imperium, one of mutual growth and shared knowledge, rather than forced integration. Human advisors, not conquerors, worked alongside Gloran engineers to optimize their ship designs, not by replacing them, but by teaching them the underlying principles of quantum efficiency and advanced AI integration. Gloran physicians, once bound by rudimentary treatments, learned genetic therapy and bioreconstruction from human experts, curing ailments that had plagued their species for eons. The illustrious Conclave was gradually reformed into the Conclave of Shared Knowledge, its focus shifting from absolute rule to coordinating interspecies development and cultural exchange. Their vast fleets, once instruments of theatrical conquest, were repurposed as deep space exploration vessels, charting unknown nebulae and making peaceful first contact, not with demands for submission, but with offers of mutual learning. The concept of humanity, heck yeah, became, to the Glorans, less about a loud cheer for a powerful species, and more about a quiet, profound reverence for a civilization that chose to uplift rather than conquer, to share rather than hoard, to laugh at its own absurdities even as it casually reshaped reality. They learned that true advancement was not about imposing one's will, but about empowering all to reach their full potential. Years passed. The Human Confederacy and the reformed Lumina Alliance forged a bond unique in the galaxy. They encountered other nascent empires, other species trapped by their own limited perspectives. And together, Human and Gloran, they became the galaxy's most unexpected mentors, gently guiding developing civilizations away from the path of self-important conquest and towards a future of collaborative discovery. Eris Thorn, now an esteemed ambassador and cultural liaison, often found himself gazing out at the starfield from the observation deck of the Alliance's new joint exploration flagship. Its design was a blend of Gloran aesthetics and human efficiency, a testament to their shared journey. Alongside him, Coordinator Kalis, its azure skin now vibrant with genuine purpose, reflected on their beginnings. "We thought we were so grand, Doctor," Kalis murmured, its 6 eyes fixed on a distant, newly charted nebula. "We thought we knew everything, and you simply laughed at us. Politely, of course." Eris chuckled softly. "Not at you, Coordinator, with you. The universe has a fantastic sense of humor, Kalis. We just had to help you see it." The galaxy, vast and unknowable, stretched before them. It was a canvas of endless possibilities, of new discoveries, of challenges yet to be faced. And somewhere out there, perhaps another arrogant empire was preparing its grand entrance, ready to declare its dominion. But humanity, now with powerful, grateful allies, was ready. Ready not to conquer, but to teach. Ready not to destroy, but to inspire. Ready to meet the universe's endless absurdities with a casual shrug, a knowing smile, and a profound, unwavering humanity. Heck yeah. The cosmic stage was set. The curtain was merely raising on the next act, and humanity, with its unique blend of power and amusement, was ready for the show. If you enjoyed this astonishing finale and want to see more stories of humanity's casual brilliance, then smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel to join our growing community of humanity. Heck yeah! Fans, and let us know in the comments, what was your favorite moment from this entire series? Your support helps us bring more incredible sci-fi adventures to life.